Welcome to the Inspired Hive podcast, where we connect ambitious entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers with the ideas and inspiration to elevate their leadership, business, and life. I'm your host, Margo. Each week, we dive into powerful conversations on leadership, personal growth, and how to thrive along the journey. Dr. Eddah Mutua is a professor of intercultural communication at St. Cloud State in Minnesota. Her research interests include African communications, epistemologies, grassroots peace-building initiatives in Eastern Africa, East African immigrants and host communities relations in central Minnesota, and her work in African communication draws from perspectives of everyday lived experiences of African people. She is an award-winning published author and editor and has traveled internationally as the 2025 Carnegie African Diaspora Fellow at the University of Nairobi and the 2025 Foreign Experts Fellow at Minzu University of China. Professor Mutua serves on editorial boards and continues to have an active teaching load at St. Cloud State. Originally from Kenya, she balances her professional accomplishments with a healthy training schedule of marathon races each year. Let's get inspired. I met Eddah during her time in North Dakota through our running community. Her positivity, determination, resilience, and energy shone through all of those tough running days. I'm honored to call her a friend and truly inspired by her life journey. She inspires her professional community, and her leadership in education is apparent in her academic accomplishments. I know you'll all be inspired by our conversation today. Eddah, welcome to the Inspired Hive podcast.
Thank you very much, Margo. I am honored to be here.
I am just so thrilled that I could twist your arm enough to convince you this was a good idea. But I have been so just so inspired by all the stories that we've shared on our runs and just learning about the various aspects of your career journey. And I just felt like this would be a really important conversation for others to hear and something that could really inspire each and every one of us in all aspects of what we're doing, whether it's running, whether it's our careers or leadership paths. So again, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
I would love to know where your story began.
Oh, Margo, thanks again. It's a very long story, but I'll try to make it short. I was born and raised in Kenya. First and foremost, whenever I tell about my story, I have to pinch myself. Wow, is it really me telling a story? Is my story that meaningful that others would like to hear it? And when I think about it, I realize, yes, it is, because I scripted it myself. I did not have anyone to script it for me. And so I have to share it because I scripted it. I was raised by my grandparents in rural Kenya in a village. I walked to school from first grade to seventh grade without shoes. I sat for a national examination in seventh grade. I didn't do very well as I wanted, so I went to a local school and had to sit for a after 2 years, maybe I will say ninth grade, what will be equivalent to ninth grade in United States, I sat for an examination, national examination, and I did well, and I went to a national school. This school where I was for 2 years and my primary school, these were just rooms. I didn't have all the opportunities that people have elsewhere. And I persevered. And I didn't even think so much about what I didn't have. I just thought about what I needed to do to move ahead. Going to this girls' boarding school, and there was electricity, there was light, we wore shoes, we wore uniform. That told me, oh, wow, yeah, life can change. Luckily, I got to the University of Nairobi and proceeded to go for my master's at City University in London, my PhD at University of Wales, and here I am as a full professor in United States. But this journey is not how did I get to United States. It wasn't all this academic success that brought me here. When I was doing my PhD, my son, he was about 2. He was diagnosed with cognitive developmental delay. And that shook my world. And it just changed everything that was to become a priority. Coming to United States was not for me to work as a professor. I came to this country to get help for my son. And guess what? Because I remember so well walking through New York, the airport JFK. I flew from England, and the immigration man asking me, oh, where are you going? I said, I'm going to California. And he asked me, do you know how far California is from here? I said, no. I walked through with determination, respect, and just my passport, nothing else. Just hope that, wow, I hope I get the help that I need and that everything else can fall into place. And here I am. I say my son is really my luck. He made everything possible for me. And that's my journey.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard parts of your story. I haven't heard all of what you've shared today, and I want to thank you first off for sharing that. And the pieces that land for me are the aspects of how you take it upon yourself to write the story, and that you don't have to listen to what others are suggesting or saying or talking about, but that you have all the power to write it yourself. And when you do that, those next steps, even if you don't exactly know what they are, they become apparent, right? The things land in your life that help you know what that next phase or next thing might be to do. And what a powerful just philosophy of life in general.
Margo, I still remember that day in November 1999 when I came to this country, walking through. And first of all, I told myself, I need to walk into this country with a good attitude because I'm gonna write a different story. There's one that has brought me this far, but right here I'm gonna write a different one because the one that I was scripting while I was in Kenya didn't, when I growing up, it didn't include the new experience that brought me to this country and just having just good attitude and determination, and always keeping your eyes on the prize, you get the prize. And
Mm-hmm.
you can't get it when you are knocking everyone down. You cannot do that. You get the prize when you know exactly who you were, when you are self reflective, when you don't take any opportunity for granted, which I certainly do not do, and always doing the best that you can.
Mm-hmm.
That's my motto. And that is how I continue to think of how the script doesn't end, and teaching others, through my teaching how to write their own script. And I tell my students that nobody is going to write it for you.
Mm.
Yes, your parents might provide. You are lucky to be born in a country where you can have access to a lot of things, but still that doesn't really write you a script. You script it yourself.
Mm-hmm. I
Mhm.
love that so much. And especially the idea that you the script you had gets you so far. And then you have to review that and iterate and design that next level. And I think so many folks in leadership and in business adventure, they get to that place where the script has kind of culminated, and then there's a comfort zone that gets there, that there isn't that next chapter or that next, it's just kind of on repeat or on, okay, we're here, we're just doing this, and there's an autopilot or an expectation that it's just going to continue in that same way. And I love how powerful your process is in terms of you have to keep writing, you have to keep designing, you have to keep growing that. It's so important.
Margo, coming to this country as a voluntary immigrant, I knew I had, the education to get me a better life if I am lucky. And so I had to, I didn't go to school in United States. I did the British education system.
Hmm.
So I had, again, this idea of rescripting, doing your script over and over again. So having to adjust to understand American education system so that I can be an effective teacher. And I did that. That is writing something different. I had things that I had that forced me to move beyond even my discomforts, because it was really hard. And let's be real, it's not easy for a Black woman to script is not written for her. As a Black African woman, I had a lot of things against me, and I had to re reevaluate everything about me and think of how I get myself from this very uncomfortable space of whether it's sexism, racism, homophobia, or xenophobia, all that stuff, and get myself to a comfortable space for me, which is um, cultural cultural understanding, being able to relate to situations that are really difficult with empathy and with a very classy approach. Uh, just dealing with these issues was not easy. But once I got to a place, and again, very grateful because I have my classroom as the laboratory where I try out all these things with my students. We engage. So that really helped me to really think about how to do in this very different place. And I can help others you learn how to do it. And I really acknowledge, I thank my students for giving me the opportunity and being there for me to experiment with them, quote unquote, on how to do life in a very different environment.
It's so it's that comfort zone, right? Of kind of how things were where you have come from, wherever that is. And there can be such a connection and comfort within that knowledge, whether it's good or bad or challenging or easy, there's still comfort with the knowing of it. And it's not the uncertainty of something new and having to learn new things and having to grow in new ways and incorporate that. It- Underneath all of this is I come back to that scripting because there's a language about that. There's a communication about that where you're either writing it or talking to yourself about it and telling yourself, and you have such a positive perspective that your essence is and that you bring to everything. But I know you have boundaries in terms of that positivity of kind of the spaces you hold, the people you hold in them, that it has to all be aligned. And I wonder if you would speak into that for a little.
You know, I appreciate the question about boundaries. And what is it, even with all these challenges of foreignness, newness, all the things that I have to deal with? What are my boundaries? Guess what? It is what I have learned about myself and others. And the boundaries that I draw are because I understand where I am. Growth from a difficult place to a better place doesn't happen when we just sit pretty on our chairs.
Mhm.
It is intentional. It is deliberate. And if I've got to all this space that I have created that makes me comfortable, and I know this is how far I can go with this, this is how far I can let others into my life. It's all determined by what I have been able to learn throughout.
Mhm.
It is every day, Margo, I am learning. And as an intercultural communication teacher, the joy of that is the fact that I know about others who may not know about me. And when they welcome me into their lives, or vice versa, then we learn and realize that, oh, wow, all these, some of the restrictions that we put on ourselves can be released, and we can become people that are curious about one another, people that are curious about being in company of each other. And that is how I draw my boundaries, knowing that I understand this situation. I can let that person into my life. I understand their situation, but I'm sorry, I am not letting them into this space. I am not saying this to mean that, to portray the image that I'm all knowing. No, it is something that I do. I communicate with my heart. I I know what I want to do. I want to be able to make decisions. When I say no, it is just no. It's not just saying no from nowhere, but it's something that I've thought about very deeply. Even when I say yes, It's
Mhm.
also from my heart. The other day, I was telling my partner that I am so into this conscious living. It may sound utopia, but it's so good to lead a life where you are thinking about what you do every day and how it affects those that are around you.
Mm.
And that is what is also helping me know how to draw lines, boundaries and saying, I don't want that. I want this, that. And it's a everyday practice. It
I-
won't happen if I'm not intentional.
oh, I love that so much. The intentionality, but the also being present, and consciously making decisions, not on the autopilot, not on the routine, but really thinking about each of those steps and each of those moments that you have to engage with others or engage in tasks that you're doing. And it's, I think, something that so many of us we're learning about. Like you said, it's a practice to kind of put into repetition, to put into the space of our lives and our journeys. And I think there's also a lot of people that, that's not even a task they've ever heard about or a thought process they've ever heard about because of the scripts that have been running that aren't theirs, that's someone else's expectation of what they do and how they do. And, it's, I think, one of those things where I love your concept of curiosity about others. I think curiosity can bring so much to the world and enlighten us in so many ways that
Mm.
we don't, if we don't come from that curiosity, we come from the preconceived notions, and often those get us into trouble.
When you were a guest speaker in my class
Mhm.
earlier this spring, you taught my students and myself how to lead that life of, you know, thinking consciously about what we do and the decisions as leaders. And that has stuck with me. And I want to be able to do that all the time. Something else also that guides me and is really very connected to this concept of conscious living is what you said about my research, the African epistemologies, African ways of knowing. And always, and that is really what guides me, how I was raised, and it's a conscious way of life because spirituality, religion, culture are all meshed together. So
Mhm.
whatever you do, you it's believed that so many people are watching you, even the supernatural power, and bringing that to my everyday life helps me a lot. And also just dealing with my everyday experiences as as an African immigrant, um, and developing my own um, just my own image,
Mhm.
which again I continue to script how I want to be and how. And it's not so much about me because I know if I want to be somebody positive, then when I walk into my class with 30 students in one class, another one 30 students, about 100 students in a semester, and I'm radiating something special,
Mm.
I know I am impacting them.
Yeah.
It is just, as I think more about it, Margo, it just seems something really beautiful to do, but just really tiring because we have to be, it's really being conscious, but also easy if you make it a daily practice. If I can go, if I like running, then I should, and it's easy for me, I should also find this lifestyle that I'm choosing for myself easy as well. I shouldn't struggle. I shouldn't force it. It should just come out naturally because I believe in it. I'm not trying to be, to force it or trying to be cool. No. If it's in me, I want all the time to be able to radiate that good vibes.
I love that. And it's almost that that's the outcome of all of the things that you're working on in terms of your curiosity and your intentionality and your kind of focus on the moment and really enriching that and sharing that with others. And I think so many of us are focus differently. That, we're thinking about how other people see us, not how we are projecting into the world. And just coming from that honest authenticity of finding yourself and who you are, it just can radiate so much energy and positivity out. And I I celebrate that you have discovered that. I'm curious if you have advice for folks on how they can begin that practice for themselves.
You know, I'm just, right now, I'm asking, I'm just trying to get the response from deep inside me.
Mm.
What does my heart, what does my spirit tell me? What do I want? I think it is something that can't just happen this way. We have to really look at the larger picture of who we are before we narrow it to me. Who am I? Looking at the world,
Mm.
what do I see out there that tells me I need to be a different person? Who is out there that inspires me? Who is out there that I want to be like them? What is out there that I would like to change if I were able? So this big picture, if we begin there, looking at the big picture, not just this narrow, then I believe that we can have a better sense of how to perceive ourselves, given this, coming from the bigger picture,
Hmm.
then that gives us answers. I look at something and I say, no, I don't want to take that route. I want to be like so and so. I want to be that. I tell my students always to begin out there, you know, tell me somebody that has a job that you admire. What would
Mm.
you do to get that job? I don't tell them, I don't start with what you want to be. I tell them, go out there. You tell me, look out there and tell me somebody who has a good job that you would like, or the people that you admire. That I don't have a direct advice, but that is what I do and I continue to do, Margo. Let's open our eyes. Let's look out there. And then we can have what we are seeing go in, work on it, and then we bring it out.
I love that so much because to see or be guided by what someone else has done can instill that belief for yourself that it is possible, which is, half the battle. And once there's that possibility, then I love how it helps you understand your connectedness to the rest of to
Mhm.
the realm, right? Of, there's that script can be written with the connectedness in place as opposed to narrowly focused, single-minded, I'm the only thing going, right? And once that recognition of that connectedness is there, I think you're right, the world just unfolds. The whole journey can unfold.
Yeah, Margot saying that looking at other people, I remember when I was growing up in rural Kenya, I remember my cousins will come to the village from the city and they are speaking English. And when they leave, I would cry because I used to say, my gosh, will I ever speak like them?
Mm.
I would love, and I look back today, yeah, even when something is bitter and you look at it and you just say, I wish I could, in tears, I used to admire them. And here I am. I think uh, I don't have regrets about my accent, but I speak English. I remember those moments when I wished I could, but here I am.
And here you are with an amazing communication process for folks and inspiring so many.
You
I think those are the
inspire me.
things to celebrate the most.
You inspire me, and just calling me to have this conversation with you. It's such an honor. It's such an honor. I'm just a village girl, and to have this opportunity to talk to with the world and to share and to learn as well is really a good thing.
Oh, well, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I am the one that is truly honored to have a friendship with someone who has such an amazing journey. I wrap each of the episodes with a quote, and the one I always select ahead of time, the one I selected today is from Arania El Abdullah. We are stronger when we listen and smarter when we share.
Oh, wow.
And it just blows my mind how, these quotes just pop out and I throw them in here. But, what a way to wrap up this episode. And for me, I'm just so reminded about curiosity and communication and how it's not just about our message, but about our responses and our reception. And I truly am honored that you're here today, Eddah. Thank you so much for being on. Hey, thanks for spending time with us on the Inspired Hive podcast today. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Inspired Hive Podcast and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on what's coming up next. Can't wait to have you back, and as always, live inspired.